The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Commander Jake Martinez walked through them, his black uniform looking plain next to the colorful robes and shining armor of the alien delegates. His boots made quiet sounds on the crystal floor as he moved toward the center of the huge room. Around him, 12 different alien species sat in their special seats. Each group had their own section of the circular chamber. The Zephyrians glowed with a soft blue light from their tall, thin bodies. The Vorthans looked like living rocks with gems for eyes. The Mercanti floated in water tanks, their fish-like bodies moving slowly. Other species filled the remaining seats, all watching the human with different levels of interest. Jake stopped at the speaking platform in the center. He looked up at Admiral Kexthal, the lead Zephyrian representative. The alien's long neck bent down to look at him, and Jake could see amusement in those bright blue eyes. "Honored council members," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's sound system. "I come before you today with urgent news. Our long-range scouts have detected a massive fleet approaching our galaxy from outside. This force is unlike anything we have ever seen." A few alien delegates made sounds that Jake knew were laughter. The Cathari, who looked like giant insects, clicked their mandibles together. The sound echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. "Hi." Counselor Mir Dash, the oldest Vorthan, spoke in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "Human Martinez, your species has been part of our community for only 50 years. We have defended this galaxy for thousands of years. What could you possibly tell us about threats that we do not already know?" Jake felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. "With respect, Counselor, this threat comes from outside our galaxy. Our scouts detected energy signatures that do not match any known technology. The fleet is enormous, possibly numbering in the millions of ships." "Captain." Lisa Brooks stepped forward from behind Jake. She carried a data pad with their sensor readings. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her green eyes were serious as she looked up at the council. "If I may," Lisa said, "our deep space monitoring stations picked up these readings 6 months ago. The energy pattern suggests technology that operates outside normal spacetime. We believe this fleet has been traveling between galaxies for a very long time." Admiral Kexthal's neck swayed slightly, which Jake knew was the Zephyrian version of shaking his head. "Impossible. No technology can travel between galaxies efficiently. The distances are too great, even with our most advanced drives. Besides," added Counselor Vector from the aquatic Mercanti, his voice bubbling through his water tank speakers, "what could threaten us? Our combined fleets number over 100,000 ships. We have weapons that can destroy stars and shields, that can stop entire fleets." Dr. Sam Nelson, humanity's chief scientist studying alien life, moved to stand beside Lisa. His gray hair and lined face showed his many years of research. He held up a small device that projected a 3-dimensional image above the platform. "Council members, please look at this data," Sam said. The image showed a map of the galaxy's edge, with red dots marking the approaching fleet. These ships appear to phase in and out of normal space. Our readings suggest they exist partially in another dimension. This means traditional weapons might not work against them. The chamber filled with various alien sounds of disbelief. The insect-like Cathari buzzed loudly. The rock-like Brutans made deep rumbling sounds. The energy beings called Luxians flashed different colors rapidly. Counselor Mirdash spoke again, his gem eyes flashing with what Jake recognized as anger. "You dare to lecture us about dimensional physics? The Vorthans mastered time manipulation when your species was still living in caves. We can age enemy fleets to dust before they fire a single shot. The Zephyrians have created energy shields that can deflect the power of entire stars," Admiral Kexthal added, his blue glow becoming brighter. "No weapon in this galaxy can penetrate our defenses." Jake tried one more time. "Admiral Counselor, all of you, please listen. We are not trying to insult your capabilities. We are trying to warn you about something completely new. Our analysis suggests these invaders have encountered and defeated many galaxies before ours. Analysis? The Cathari representative, General Hivemind, clicked his mandibles sharply. What analysis could a primitive species like yours provide? You have been in space for barely 2 centuries. Some of us have been exploring the stars since before your planet formed. Lisa stepped forward again, her datapad showing more readings. Our telescopes detected the remains of several galaxies along their path. Each one shows signs of complete destruction. Entire star systems drained of all matter and energy. Impossible, declared Speaker Voidsong of the energy beings. The Luxian's form flickered between different colors as it spoke. No force could consume entire galaxies. You are mistaken about what you observed. Dr. Nelson tried a different approach. We have recordings from our most distant monitoring stations. The energy signatures match nothing in our combined databases. These entities seem to feed on the fundamental forces that hold matter together. The chamber erupted in alien sounds of dismissal and disbelief. Jake watched as the various species gestured in ways that clearly showed they thought humans were either lying or too stupid to understand what they had seen. High Counselor Mir Dash raised one massive stone arm, and the chamber became quiet. Commander Martinez, your species has always been known for violent tendencies and paranoid thinking. This is clearly another example of human fear overriding logic. We have defended this galaxy since before your species existed, Admiral Kexthal said, his voice carrying centuries of pride. We have faced every possible threat and emerged victorious. These phantom enemies of yours do not concern us. Jake felt his team's frustration, but he made one final attempt. Please, just strengthen your outer defenses. Move some fleets too. The Galactic Rim, if we are wrong, nothing is lost. If we are right, you will be ready. General Hivemind's buzzing grew louder. We will not waste our resources on human fantasies. Your species sees enemies everywhere because that is your nature. You have been fighting each other since you learned to make weapons. Counselor Mirdash stood up from his massive stone chair. His voice filled the chamber like an avalanche. The Galactic Council finds humanity guilty of spreading panic among civilized species. You are hereby banned from accessing military coordination networks and forbidden from attending defense meetings. Furthermore, Admiral Kexthal added, if you continue to spread these baseless fears, we will consider it an act of aggression against galactic peace. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. He looked around the chamber at faces and forms that showed nothing but dismissal and arrogance. These beings had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten what real danger looked like. Council members, Jake said quietly, I hope you remember this day when the shooting starts. 2. Zephyrian guards approached the human delegation. Their tall forms cast long shadows as they gestured toward the chamber doors. Jake, Lisa, and Sam walked toward the exit, their footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. As they reached the doors, Jake turned back one last time. When this fleet arrives, and it will arrive, remember that humanity tried to warn you. Remember that we offered to help. The doors closed behind them with a final hiss, leaving the human delegation standing in the corridor outside. Lisa looked at Jake with worry in her green eyes. What do we do now? She asked. Jake straightened his shoulders and looked down the long corridor toward the docking bay where their ship waited. We go home and get ready to fight alone. The 3 humans walked away from the Galactic Council chamber, knowing they had just witnessed the beginning of the end. Behind them, the alien delegates continued their meetings, confident in their superiority and certain that no threat could touch their advanced civilizations. They would learn otherwise very soon. 6 months had passed since the council meeting. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching the communication screens with growing horror. Red warning lights flashed across every display as emergency signals flooded in from the galaxy's outer rim. Another system just went dark, reported Sergeant Mike Davis from his station. His young face was pale as he watched the readings. The Cathari mining colony at Proxima 7 stopped transmitting 5 minutes ago. Amy walked over to the main display screen. The galactic map showed red zones spreading inward like a disease. Each red dot represented a star system that had gone silent. In just 3 days, 47 systems had been lost. What about the Cathari Defense Fleet? Amy asked. Gone, Mike answered, his voice quiet. Their last transmission was a distress call. Something about ships that could not be hit and weapons that ate through their hulls like acid. Admiral Martinez entered the command center, his face grim. Behind him walked Captain Danny Wright, one of their best ship commanders. Danny's brown hair was messy from running his hands through it, a habit he had when worried. Status report, Martinez said as he approached the main screen. Amy pointed. To the spreading red zones? The invasion has begun, sir, just like our scouts predicted. The enemy is moving through the outer systems faster than anyone thought possible. Any word from the Galactic Council? Martinez asked. Danny shook his head. Nothing official. But we are picking up emergency transmissions from Zephyrian and Vorthan fleets. It sounds like they are finally taking this seriously. The main communication system crackled to life. A panicked voice speaking the trade language filled the room. This is Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian cruiser Starfire. We are under attack. By unknown vessels, our shields are useless. They are passing right through them. Request immediate assistance. The transmission cut to static. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. The Zephyrians were supposed to have the strongest shields in the galaxy. Apparently not strong enough, Martinez said grimly. He turned to the communication officer. Get me a connection to Earth Command. We need to start moving our fleets. Dr. Sam Nelson hurried into the command center, carrying a datapad filled with new readings. His gray hair was even more disheveled than usual, and his clothes looked like he had been sleeping in his lab. Admiral, we are getting better sensor data now that they are closer, Sam said, breathing hard. These ships are definitely biomechanical. Part living creature, part machine. And they exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. What does that mean for our weapons? Danny asked. Sam pulled up readings on his datapad. Traditional energy weapons pass right through them when they phase out. Kinetic weapons like missiles and bullets work better, but only when the ships are solid. When are they solid? Amy asked. When they feed, Sam answered. Our long-range sensors show them literally consuming the matter from destroyed ships and space stations. During that time, they have to be in normal space. Martinez studied the galactic map. The red zones were growing larger every hour. How many ships are we looking at? Conservative estimate? 50,000, Sam said. But they could have more waiting outside the galaxy, Danny whistled low. The entire human fleet is only 300 ships. Then we'd better make every shot. Count, Martinez said. He turned to Amy. Colonel, I want every human ship recalled immediately. Start evacuation of our outer colonies. Yes, sir, Amy said. Moving to her communication station, the main screen suddenly lit up with an incoming priority message. The image showed Captain Lisa Brooks from the bridge of the exploration ship Discovery. Her usually neat appearance was disheveled, and there was fear in her green eyes. Admiral Martinez, this is Brooks. We are at the edge of the Centauri system. Sir, you need to see this. The image changed to show the view from her ship's cameras. Where the beautiful blue star of Centauri should have been, there was only empty space. Around it, the remains of planets drifted like cosmic dust. The entire system is gone, Lisa continued. 4 planets, 2 asteroid belts, and the star itself. All consumed in less than 6 hours. The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen showing nothing but empty space where a solar system used to exist. Any survivors? Martinez asked quietly. None, Lisa replied. We detected no life signs and no escape pods. Everything is just gone. Amy felt sick to her stomach. The Centauri system had been home to over 2 billion people from 3 different species. Now it was as if it had never existed. Brooks, get out of there now, Martinez ordered. Return to Luna Base immediately. Already on our way, sir. The communication ended, leaving the command center in shocked silence. Sergeant Davis spoke up from his station. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian High Command. They are requesting human assistance. Martinez looked surprised. Put them through. The main screen showed Admiral Kexthal, the same Zephyrian who had dismissed human warnings 6 months ago. His normally proud bearing was gone, replaced by something Amy had never seen in an alien before: fear. "Admiral Martinez," Kexthal said, his blue glow much dimmer than usual, "we need your help. Our 7th Fleet engaged the invaders near the Proxima Nebula. Of 3,000 ships, only 12 survived." Martinez kept his face neutral. "What happened to your superior technology, Admiral?" Kexthal's long neck drooped. "Our energy shields are useless. Our weapons cannot lock onto targets that phase in and out of normal space. They destroyed our flagship by simply passing through our hull and consuming the crew from inside." "What are you asking from us?" Martinez said. "We formally request human tactical assistance," Kexthal said, the words clearly difficult for him to speak. "Our war computers cannot predict their movements. They fight unlike anything we have ever encountered." Danny stepped forward. "Admiral, I was at Volf 359 during our last war games. We used small ships and unconventional tactics against much larger fleets. Maybe those same tactics could work here." Amy was already thinking along the same lines. Human military doctrine was based on centuries of fighting other humans. They had learned to be unpredictable, to use surprise attacks, and to accept heavy losses for strategic gains. The aliens had never needed to learn such harsh lessons. "Admiral Kexthal," Martinez said, "we will help, but under human command structure. Our ships, our tactics, our rules." The Zephyrian's pride visibly struggled with desperation. Finally, desperation won. "Agreed." Another alarm sounded as more emergency transmissions flooded in. The Vorthan homeworlds were under attack. Their time manipulation weapons had proved completely useless against enemies that existed across multiple time streams. The aquatic mercanti were sending out desperate pleas as their ocean worlds were being drained completely dry. Amy watched the galactic map update in real time. The red zones now covered nearly a quarter of the galaxy. Refugee ships from dozens of species were fleeing toward human space, the only area that seemed to offer any hope of safety. "Colonel Foster," Martinez said, "prepare Luna Base for a massive refugee influx. We are about to become the galaxy's last sanctuary. What about our own defenses?" Amy asked. Martinez looked at the spreading red zones on the map. "We prepare for the fight of our lives and hope that the aliens are ready to learn how humans really fight when everything is at stake." Captain Wright studied the incoming refugee reports. "Admiral, we are getting reports that some species are offering to share their technology with us in exchange for protection." "Good," Martinez said. "We are going to need every advantage we can get." Dr. Nelson looked up from his data pad. "Admiral, I am detecting massive energy signatures heading for the galactic core. If my calculations are correct, the main invasion force will reach the inner systems within 2 weeks." Martinez nodded grimly. "Then we have 2 weeks to teach the galaxy how to fight like humans." Amy felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive were now begging for their help. The question was whether human tactics could work against an enemy that had consumed entire galaxies. Outside Luna Base's windows, ships from a dozen species arrived every hour, carrying refugees and desperate military leaders. The galaxy was learning what humans had always known. Sometimes survival required doing terrible things and making impossible choices. The real war was about to begin. Colonel Rachel Stone stood in the briefing room aboard the human battleship Defiant, looking at the strangest gathering of military officers she had ever seen. Around the table sat representatives from 8 different alien species, all waiting to learn human tactics. Their various forms created an odd mixture of colors, shapes, and sizes that would have been amusing under different circumstances. "Gentlemen and beings," Rachel began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent 20 years fighting human wars. "You are here because your advanced technology has failed. Your superior numbers have been defeated. Your ancient wisdom has proven useless." The Zephyrian Captain Veltar shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His blue glow had remained dim since the destruction of his fleet. Colonel Stone, we acknowledge our mistakes. Please tell us how humans fight. Rachel walked to the display screen and showed footage from the Battle of Volf 359, where Commander Tony Walsh had achieved the first human victory against the Devourers. This is how we won, watch carefully. The screen showed a small fleet of human ships facing a much larger group of Devourer vessels. Instead of forming battle lines like alien fleets always did, the human ships scattered in all directions. They moved in unpredictable patterns, never maintaining formation for more than a few seconds. Your ships always fight in perfect formations, Rachel explained. You follow tactical patterns that make sense and can be predicted. The Devourers have fought civilizations like yours for thousands of years. They know what you will do before you do it. The Vorthan representative, Scholar Nethwing, leaned forward. His rocky features showed confusion. But disorder leads to chaos. How can chaos defeat order? Rachel smiled grimly, because chaos is unpredictable. Watch what happens. Next. On the screen, the scattered human ships suddenly converged on a single Devourer vessel. Instead of using energy weapons, they rammed it with their hulls while detonating their reactor cores. The explosion destroyed both the human ships and their target. The alien officers made various sounds of shock and horror. The Cathari General Hive Click buzzed loudly. Your people destroyed themselves to kill one enemy ship. This is insane. This is war, Rachel replied firmly. Those 12 humans died to save millions of lives. They knew the cost and paid it willingly. Captain Veltar's neck swayed in distress, but the waste of life and resources. Surely there must be a better way. Rachel turned to face him directly. Captain, how many ships did you lose in your first battle with the Devourers? 2,888, Veltar answered quietly. And how many enemy ships did you destroy? The Zephyrian's glow became even dimmer. None. Those 12 humans destroyed one enemy ship. Your 3,000 ships destroyed? 0. Which tactic was more effective? The room fell silent. The alien officers looked at each other with expressions that Rachel recognized as the first stirrings of understanding. Dr. Kevin Park entered the briefing room, carrying a case filled with human weapons. His wild gray hair and excited expression made him look like a mad scientist, which was not far from the truth. Colonel, the new weapons are ready for demonstration. Rachel nodded. Dr. Park has been working on weapons specifically designed to fight the Devourers. Show them, Kevin. Kevin opened his case and pulled out what looked like a simple metal tube. This is a magnetic accelerator rifle. It fires solid projectiles at very high speeds. No energy signatures for the Devourers to detect or phase through. The Luxian energy being, speaker void song, flickered different colors rapidly, but kinetic weapons are so primitive. We abandoned such crude technology centuries ago. Crude but effective, Kevin replied. He activated a small demonstration target and fired the weapon. The projectile tore through the target's energy shield and shattered its armored core. Solid matter cannot be phased through when it hits something. Real. The alien officers stared at the destroyed target. Their advanced energy weapons had never been able to penetrate such defenses so easily. General Linda Hayes entered the room with Sergeant Major Chris Murphy behind her. Both humans wore the scarred battle armor of the Marine Corps, and their faces showed the hard lines of people who had seen real combat. Colonel Stone, Linda said, we need to discuss boarding tactics. Rachel nodded. General Hayes commands. Our Special Operations Forces. She will explain how humans fight inside enemy ships. Linda activated another display screen showing the interior of a captured Devourer vessel. The corridors were organic and twisted, more like the inside of a living creature than a spaceship. The Devourer's ships are partly alive, Linda explained. They have immune systems that attack intruders. Traditional alien boarding tactics rely on energy weapons and protective shields. Neither works inside these ships. Sergeant Major Murphy stepped forward. We use flamethrowers, explosive charges, and chemical weapons. The biomechanical systems cannot adapt to primitive attacks as quickly as they can to energy weapons. The Cathari general's mandibles clicked nervously. You attack with fire and poison? This seems barbaric. Barbaric but successful, Murphy replied. We have captured 3 devourer ships using these methods. How many have you captured using civilized tactics? Again, the aliens had no answer. Dr. Helen Chang rushed into the briefing room, her lab coat still stained with chemical residue. Her Asian features were flushed with excitement as she carried a datapad full of new discoveries. Colonel, I have found their weakness, Helen announced breathlessly. The devourers can phase through matter, but they must solidify to feed. During that time, they are vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. She showed readings on her datapad. We can build weapons that force them to solidify, making them easier targets for kinetic weapons. Rachel felt a surge of hope. How long to build these weapons? With alien manufacturing help, 2 weeks, Helen replied. But they will need to be installed on ships designed for close combat. Captain Veltar looked confused. Close combat? But long-range warfare is safer and more efficient. Not against the devourers, Rachel explained. They are most vulnerable when feeding, which happens after they destroy a target. Our ships need to get close enough to catch them in that vulnerable moment. The Vorthan scholar Nethwing spoke. This requires accepting tremendous risk. Many ships will be lost. Yes, Rachel agreed, but some ships will succeed. The alternative is losing everything. Commander Tony Walsh entered the briefing room, his uniform bearing the marks of recent combat. His face was tired but determined. Behind him walked Captain Danny Wright, who had just returned from a successful raid on a devourer supply line. Colonel, Tony said, we have confirmed that the new tactics work. My squadron hit a devourer feeding group near the Vega system. We lost 6 ships but destroyed 4 enemy vessels. The alien officers looked shocked. Losing 6 ships to destroy 4 seemed like a defeat to them. You see this as a victory? Captain Veltar asked. Absolutely, Tony replied. For the first time since this war began, we achieved a positive kill ratio. We are learning how to hurt them. Danny nodded in agreement. The key is accepting that. We will take losses. Every human pilot knows they might not come home. That knowledge makes them fight harder. Rachel looked around the room at the alien faces. This is what you must learn. War is not about avoiding losses. War is about achieving victory despite losses. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know that sometimes you must sacrifice everything to protect what matters most. The Mercanti representative, Councillor Victor, spoke through his water tank speakers. Our species has never faced such choices. We have always sought to preserve life above all else. And that is why you are losing, Rachel said bluntly. The devourers count on your desire to preserve life. They use it against you. Humans learned long ago that sometimes you must choose which lives to save. She activated the display screen again, showing a tactical map of the galaxy. The devourers are moving toward the galactic core. They will reach the major population centers within 10 days. We can either stop them using human tactics or we can watch them consume everything. The room fell silent as the alien officers considered their options. Rachel could see the internal struggle on their faces as they wrestled with concepts that went against everything they had been taught. Finally, Captain Veltar spoke. Colonel Stone, we formally request that humans take command of all defensive operations. We will follow your orders, no matter how difficult they may be. One by one, the alien representatives agreed. The proudest civilizations in the galaxy were placing their survival in the hands of a species they had considered primitive just months before. Rachel nodded grimly. Then prepare yourselves. You are about to learn why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and pray that we are dangerous enough to save us all. Admiral Martinez stood on the bridge of the Combined Fleet Command ship New Geneva, watching the strangest sight in galactic history. Around him, hundreds of alien ships flew in formation with human vessels, all following tactical plans that would have been unthinkable just weeks before. Status report, Martinez called out to his mixed crew of humans and aliens. Captain Roy Palmer. now commanding the 1st Integrated Strike Force, spoke from his station. "Admiral, all units are in position. The Zephyrian cruisers have installed our kinetic weapons. The Vorthan ships are loaded with our explosive charges. Even the Mercanti have modified their vessels for ramming attacks." Martinez nodded, but he could see the strain on Roy's face. Training alien crews to fight like humans had been harder than anyone expected. Many aliens had broken under the psychological pressure of learning to accept certain death as part of their mission. "Lieutenant," Commander Janet Fox approached with a datapad full of reports. Her red hair was pulled back severely, and her green eyes showed the exhaustion of someone who had been working around the clock. "Admiral, we have lost 37 alien officers to mental breakdown in the last week. They cannot handle the concept of suicide missions." "How many are ready for combat?" Martinez asked. "About 60% of the alien crews are functional," Janet replied. "The rest are either in medical care or have requested transfer to support roles." Dr. Peter Clark hurried onto the bridge, his lab coat stained with grease and chemical burns. Behind him, a Vorthan engineer named Rocktile carried equipment that looked like a mix of alien technology and human weapons. "Admiral, the new weapons are ready," Peter announced excitedly. "We have combined alien manufacturing speed with human weapons design. The electromagnetic pulse generators can force devourers to solidify, and the kinetic cannons can destroy them while they are vulnerable." Rocktile, whose gem eyes glowed with what Martinez had learned was Vorthan enthusiasm, spoke in his grinding voice. "Human Dr. Clark has taught us to think differently about weapons. Instead of elegant solutions, we now build crude but effective tools." Martinez smiled slightly. "How crude?" "Very crude," Rocktile replied with what might have been pride. "These weapons will probably explode after 50 shots. But those 50 shots will kill devourers." The main communication system activated, bringing reports from across the fleet. Captain Danny Wright's voice came through clearly from his destroyer position. "Admiral, we have confirmation that the Devourer main force is approaching the Rigel system. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. "Any word from the civilian evacuation?" Martinez asked. "All major population centers have been cleared," Danny replied. "But we are talking about 4 billion refugees scattered across 100 different systems." Colonel Rachel Stone entered the bridge, followed by several alien officers who looked both determined and terrified. Among them was Captain Veltar, whose blue glow had changed to a deeper shade that Martinez had learned indicated Zephyrian resolve. "Admiral," Rachel said, "the alien crews are as ready as they will ever be. We have taught them the basics of human combat doctrine. Whether they can actually follow through remains to be seen." Captain Veltar stepped forward. "Admiral Martinez, my crew understands that we may not survive this battle. This is a difficult concept for my species, but we accept it." "Good," Martinez replied, "because the alternative is watching the Devourers consume every living thing in the galaxy." "Sergeant." Major Chris Murphy arrived with a group of mixed-species Marines. Humans, Zephyrians, Cathari, and even a few brave Mercanti in mechanical suits stood together, all carrying the crude but effective weapons that human engineers had designed. "Sir, the boarding teams are ready," Murphy reported. "The aliens are still learning, but they understand the mission. Get inside the Devourer ships and destroy them from within." A Cathari Marine named Hive Warrior clicked his mandibles. "Human Murphy has taught us to use fire and explosives. It goes against our nature, but we see the effectiveness." Martinez looked out at the fleet surrounding his ship. Alien vessels that had once been works of art now bristled with ugly human weapons. Beautiful energy projectors had been replaced with simple kinetic cannons. Elegant shield generators had been removed to make room for ramming equipment. "It looks like we turned them into barbarians," Janet commented quietly. "We turned them into survivors," Martinez corrected. The tactical display showed the approaching Devourer fleet. Even with all their preparations, the enemy still outnumbered them 3-1. Worse, intelligence reports suggested this was only the advance force. Dr. Helen Chang rushed onto the bridge with her latest readings. "Admiral, I have been studying the captured Devourer technology. I think I know why they came to our galaxy. Tell me, Martinez said. Helen activated a display showing galactic energy patterns. They are not just consuming matter and energy. They are harvesting something else. Something that only exists in galaxies with intelligent life. What kind of something? Rachel asked. Consciousness itself, Helen replied. The devourers feed on the mental energy of thinking beings. That is why they destroy civilizations instead of just eating planets. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The devourers were not just invaders or predators. They were harvesters of the one thing that made intelligent life special. How many galaxies have they consumed? Martinez asked quietly. Helen checked her readings. Based on their technology age, possibly hundreds. We might be looking at creatures that have been feeding on consciousness for millions of years. Captain Roy Palmer spoke from his tactical station. Admiral, the Devourer fleet has entered the Rigel system. They are beginning their attack on the outer planets. Martinez looked around the bridge at the mixed crew of humans and aliens. This is it, people. Everything we have worked for comes down to the next few hours. He activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Martinez. You know what we are facing. You know what we have to do? Follow your human commanders, trust your training, and remember that every sacrifice you make saves billions of lives. The fleet began moving toward the Rigel system, hundreds of ships carrying the hopes of an entire galaxy. Martinez watched the tactical display as his forces arranged themselves according to human battle doctrine. First wave, begin your attack. Run, Martinez ordered. On the display, he watched as the first group of ships, led by Captain Tony Walsh, accelerated toward the Devourer fleet. Instead of the careful, measured approach that aliens preferred, the ships moved at maximum speed in chaotic patterns. Second wave, prepare for ramming speed. Martinez continued. Captain Veltar's voice came through the communication system. Human Admiral, my crew is ready to follow your orders. Martinez felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. He was ordering beings from a dozen different species to their probable deaths. Some of them had families, cultures, and histories, stretching back thousands of years. But the alternative was the end of everything. All ships engage the enemy, Martinez commanded. The battle began with a violence that shocked even the human crews. Ships designed for exploration and peaceful contact threw themselves at biomechanical horrors with the fury of desperate warriors. Elegant alien vessels exploded alongside crude human destroyers as they rammed into targets too large to comprehend. Martinez watched Captain Danny Wright lead a group of mixed ships in a suicide run against a Devourer command vessel. The alien crews followed him without hesitation, having finally learned what humans meant by acceptable losses. Admiral, Janet reported, we are receiving damage reports from across the fleet. Casualties are heavy, but we are hurting them. For the first time since the invasion began, the Devourers seemed confused. They had never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice so much for strategic advantage. Their usual tactics of intimidation and overwhelming force were useless against crews who expected to die. Sir, Roy called out, the Devourers are changing their attack patterns. They are pulling back from our ramming ships. Martinez smiled grimly. They are learning to fear us. Good. Fear makes everyone make mistakes. The battle continued to rage as human tactics slowly began to turn the tide. The Alliance was learning to fight like humanity had always fought, with desperate courage and the willingness to pay any price for victory, but Martinez knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when the Devourer main force arrived. The massive black hole called the Nexus hung in space like a wound in reality itself. Around it, the largest Devourer fleet ever assembled was building something that made Admiral Martinez's blood run cold. Energy streams flowed from the black hole into a structure the size of a small moon, creating a gateway that pulsed with power from another dimension. Status report, Martinez called out from the bridge of the combined fleet flagship. His hair had gone completely gray in the past months, and new lines marked his face from the weight of commanding a war for galactic survival. Captain Lisa Brooks, Now his chief intelligence officer looked up from her readings with exhaustion. In her green eyes, "Admiral, the gateway is nearly complete. Our scientists estimate it will be fully operational in 6 hours. What happens when it opens?" Martinez asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Dr. Helen Chang spoke from her science station, her voice tight with worry. "Based on our captured data, it will allow the main Devourer force to enter our galaxy. We are talking about millions of ships, possibly tens of millions." Colonel Ben Wright, who now commanded the elite strike teams, approached with his final mission briefing. His face was grim as he carried the weight of what he knew would be a one-way trip. "Admiral, my teams are ready for the final assault," Ben said. "We have volunteers from 8 different species. They all understand this is a suicide mission." Martinez looked out at the assembled fleet. Over the past months of fighting, they had lost nearly 70% of their ships. The survivors were a mix of human vessels held together with spare parts and alien ships covered in crude weapons that barely functioned. But they were still fighting. "How many ships do we have left?" Martinez asked. Captain Roy Palmer answered from the tactical station. 412 combat-capable vessels, sir, plus about 60 damaged ships that can still fight." Against them floated the largest Devourer fleet anyone had seen. Thousands of biomechanical ships surrounded the gateway, their organic hulls pulsing with alien life. At the center was their command ship, a nightmare of twisted metal and living tissue that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. "Colonel Wright," Martinez said, "tell me about the assault plan." Ben activated a display showing the interior layout of the Devourer command ship. The corridors twisted like blood vessels through a massive organism, leading to a central chamber where the gateway controls were located. "We insert through the feeding ports," Ben explained. "Sergeant Major Murphy will lead Team Alpha through the northern section. Captain Veltar will take Team Beta through the eastern approach. I will lead Team Gamma directly to the central chamber." The Zephyrian Captain Veltar stood nearby, his blue glow steady despite the fear Martinez could see in his large eyes. "Human Admiral, my team is honored to fight alongside your warriors. We have learned much about courage from your species." Martinez felt a surge of pride mixed with sorrow. The aliens had indeed learned to fight like humans, accepting death as the price of victory. But the cost had been terrible for species that had never known real war. What about the fleet action? Martinez asked. Captain Danny Wright, commanding the main battle group, spoke up. "Sir, we will engage their outer defenses to draw attention from the assault teams. Every ship knows this is our last battle." Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster, now commanding the reserve forces, added her report. "Admiral, all refugee ships have been moved to the Galactic Edge. If we fail here, at least some civilians will survive." Martinez nodded. The evacuation had saved billions of lives, but at the cost of abandoning entire worlds. Humanity's colonies, the Zephyrian homeworld. Even the ancient Vorthan capital had been left empty as their populations fled to safety. Dr. Peter Clark approached with his final weapons report. "Admiral, we have equipped the assault teams with our most powerful explosives. If they can reach the gateway controls, they should be able to overload the entire system." "What are the chances of the teams getting out alive?" Martinez asked quietly. Peter and Ben exchanged glances. "Minimal, sir," Ben replied honestly. "But the mission can still succeed." Martinez looked around the bridge at the faces of people who had become his family over the months of desperate fighting. Humans and aliens who had learned to trust each other completely, knowing that each battle might be their last. "All ships, this is Admiral Martinez," he said over the fleet communication system. "You know what we face today, you know what we fight for. Every person in this galaxy depends on what we do in the next few hours." He paused, looking out at the Devourer fleet that seemed to stretch forever. "We are outnumbered. We are outgunned. Many of us will not see tomorrow, but we are not outfought. We carry with us the hopes of every thinking being in the galaxy." The fleet began moving toward the Nexus, hundreds of ships against thousands. Martinez watched the tactical display as his forces spread out according to the battle plan they had. Rehearse so many times. First wave, begin your attack, Martinez ordered. Captain Tony Walsh led the opening assault, his squadron of mixed human and alien ships diving toward the Devourer outer defenses. Energy beams and kinetic rounds filled space as the two forces collided with devastating violence. Assault teams launch, Martinez commanded on the display. He watched as small shuttles and fighters broke away from the main fleet, carrying the strike teams toward the command ship. Each craft held warriors who knew they were flying to their deaths. The battle exploded around them as the main fleets engaged. Devourer ships phased in and out of normal space while the Allied forces used every trick human tactics had taught them. Ships rammed targets at full speed. Crews detonated their reactors to take enemies with them. Boarding parties fought hand-to-hand in the corridors of biomechanical nightmares. "Admiral," Captain Lisa Brooks called out, "Team Beta has reached the command ship. Captain Veltar is leading his Zephyrians through the eastern section." Martinez watched as the tactical display showed the assault teams fighting their way through the massive enemy vessel. Each team was taking heavy losses, but they were making progress toward the central chamber. "Team Alpha is under heavy fire," Amy reported. "Sergeant Major Murphy's team is pinned down in the northern corridor. Team Gamma has reached the outer defenses of the control chamber." Ben's voice crackled through the communication system. "Beginning final assault?" The main battle continued to rage around them. Martinez watched ship after ship disappear from his tactical display as they were destroyed or made final ramming attacks. The Devourer fleet was taking losses too, but they still had thousands of ships left. "Sir," Roy called out, "the gateway is beginning to activate. Energy levels are spiking." Through the bridge windows, Martinez could see the massive portal beginning to glow with otherworldly light. If it opened fully, the war would be over. The galaxy would fall to the endless hunger of creatures from another dimension. "Team Alpha is breaking through," Murphy's voice came over the speakers. "We are heading for the control chamber." "Team Beta has cleared the eastern section," Captain Veltar reported, moving to support Team Gamma. Martinez gripped the arms of his command chair as he watched the assault teams converge on their target. The fate of everything hung on a few dozen warriors fighting inside an alien ship. "Admiral," Ben's voice was strained with effort, "we have reached the control chamber. The gateway controls are more complex than we expected. It will take time to overload them." "How much time?" Martinez asked. "At least 10 minutes, Ben replied. "And the Devourers are sending everything they have to stop us." Martinez looked at the tactical display. His fleet was down to less than 100 ships, and the Devourer reinforcements were overwhelming. They needed to buy the assault teams those crucial 10 minutes. "All remaining ships," Martinez ordered, "cover the command ship. Do not let anything through to the assault teams." What was left of the Galactic fleet threw itself between the Devourer reinforcements and their command ship. Ships that could barely fly fought with the desperation of beings who knew this was the end. Martinez watched Captain Danny Wright lead a final charge, his destroyer ramming into a Devourer cruiser twice its size. The explosion lit up space like a new star. 5 minutes, Ben reported. "The overload is building, but we need more time." "You will have it," Martinez promised. He looked around the bridge at his surviving crew. They all knew what had to be done. "Amy, take us in, all power to engines." The flagship New Geneva, last capital ship of the combined fleet, accelerated toward the Devourer command vessel. Around them, the few remaining Allied ships followed, their crews singing battle songs from a dozen different worlds. 2 minutes, Ben's voice was barely audible over the sound of fighting. "Overload complete," Helen announced. "The gateway is destabilizing." The massive portal began to collapse in on itself, sending waves of energy through the Devourer fleet. Ships caught in the energy pulse simply ceased to exist, consumed by the forces they had tried to control. "All teams, get out of there," Martinez ordered. "Negative, Admiral," Ben replied calmly. "Someone needs to ensure the overload continues. We are staying." Martinez closed his eyes for a moment. "Understood, Colonel. You have saved the galaxy." The Command ship exploded from within as the gateway controls overloaded completely. The portal collapsed entirely, taking most of the Devourer fleet with it.